Hi children, good morning. I welcome all students of grade 11 to today's recorded video class. I taught you already the second lesson, that is, we are not afraid to die if we can all be together. We have dealt with the first part of that lesson where they started their long voyage, go round the world voyage, and what are all the arrangements they have made for to face all the hurdles all along their voyage, and how they faced the great calamities, the natural calamities, and how they continued their journey. Everything we are going to see in the second part of today's video class. Okay children, let me give you a recapture of the things what you have learned in the immediate past. They celebrated, that is the writer, his wife and two children and the members of crew, they celebrated Merry Christmas and Happy New Year with their family members in the boat itself. On 2nd January, there is a threat to their happy and peaceful journey. Yes, they faced giant waves, they encountered roaring and disastrous waves, their tiny boat was rocked and shaken by giant waves. They have a small storm jib to control the speed of the boat. It was going on at the speed of 8 knots. The boat was raised to the top of every wave. They felt that they were traveling on the waves. It seemed to them as if the entire sea was rolling to them. It was viewed by them. The roaring sound of the wave seemed as if it were deafening their ears. They fastened, tied up everything tightly with a mooring rope. They made a loop of the rope and attached it with the rear part of the boat. Then they put on life sockets and oil skin. One after another, unwanted and bad incidents were happening. All of a sudden, what happened? The situation became dreadfully silent. Yeah, it was a dangerous silence. It was considered as an indication for the happening of some worst thing. Suddenly, the wind dropped down. The sky became dark. A thick and dark cloud formed, and it appeared to them as if it rose to the tower to cover the entire back of the boat. But a little later, they realized it was not cloud, but a giant wave, which had been never seen anywhere by anyone. It raised towards the top, vertically it raised. See, this is the boat, When the boat was sailing on the boat silently, the giant waves just started to rise vertically in this position, vertically, to reach the top of the boat. And its height is almost twice, the writer says, the height of other waves. The height of that waves is almost twice of the height of other waves. It frightfully and loudly dashed against the top, that is the crust, so as to break it. Up to that, we have seen how they faced, how they encountered all these things during their voyage. Next, how they faced, how they came out of such risk. Let me explain in today's class. Okay children, now turn to your textbook. Whenever you are going to watch this TV, keep the textbook with you. Page number 14, from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th paragraph. From the beginning of this lesson, that is the 8th paragraph. The roar increased to a thunder as the storm moved up the face of the wave, and for a moment I thought we might ride over it. But a tremendous explosion shook the deck. The roaring sound of the wave became louder and louder, like thunder. Due to the force of the wave, the rear or hind part of the ship moved up to the face of the wave. Listen to me very carefully, children. The roar increased to a thunder. The roaring sound became louder and louder. It was heard as a sound of a thunder. As the stern moved up the face of the wave, the back side, the rear side, the inside of the boat, and for a moment, all the people traveling in the boat, what they thought? I thought we might ride over it. See, they thought that they were riding over the giant waves because the back side, the rear side of the boat just raised up. Okay, fine. Continue. But then a tremendous, heavy, destructive explosion shook the deck. So, moved the top of the wave, and it made the narrator to think they might be traveling over the waves. Then what happened? A terrible wave, a disastrous wave, violently dashed against the side wall of the boat and burst with a loud noise. See the meaning? But then a tremendous, heavy, disastrous wave exploded, burst with. They might see over. They made the narrator to think just dashed against. So they made explosive sound and it shook the deck, it rocked the deck. Disastrous waves violently dashed against, where it dashed, the side wall of the boat and burst with a loud noise. Everyone in the boat was shocked to hear such a loud noise. See, then what happened? See, a torrent of green and white water broke over the ship. When the disastrous waves dashed against the side wall and it had made damage, or it had damaged the wall, side wall of the boat, then it shook the deck violently. A torrent of green and white water, the sea water, the salty water, broke over the ship. Just broke over the ship. Forceful wave left then a forceful wave left the head of the writer and threw it in its original position. So next, then a tremendous explosion shook the deck. When it damaged the side wall of the boat, next what happened? Immediately a torrent of green and white water broke over the ship. It's quite common. Suppose if the giant waves made any hole or damage on the side wall, immediately what happened? The sea water just started to enter the boat. Once if it is to be blocked, if it is not to be blocked, then the entire ship would sink in the sea water. My head is smashed into the wheel. The narrator's head struck hardly, violently, forcefully against the wheel, the steering wheel. And what happened next? He flew over the side of the boat into the water. See the line? My head smashed into the wheel and I was aware. The poet was knowing. He was aware of flying overboard. He was just thrown away. Flew over the side of the boat and below the waves, and boat into the side of the waves and boat into the water. So against the wheel, and he flew over. He was thrown away by the sudden explosion waves and disastrous waves. When it hardly hit the side of the boat, he was thrown away. It is quite common. Suppose you are traveling or you are sitting in a moving object. When something hit the moving object hardly, immediately the things inside the moving object will be thrown away. It's quite common. So he flew over the side of the boat into the water. He was slowly sinking below the waves. You just imagine. He was slowly sinking into the water. He accepted the fact that his end was near. He was losing consciousness and he felt quite peaceful. See, I was aware of flying overboard. He was flying overboard and he knew that, he was aware of that. and singing below the waves. He was slowly started to sink into the waves of the sea. I accepted my approaching death. The writer, he himself accepted the fact. What he accepted, his end was near, because he was slowly started to sink into the sea water. It is very difficult to come out of it, because the disastrous waves keep coming one after another. And as I was losing consciousness, slowly the poet, the writer, losing his consciousness. So what happens? He felt quite peaceful. He decided, I won't be living hereafter, I'm going to die. The poet, the writer thought. Suddenly it happened. Unexpectedly, my head popped out of the water. Suddenly his head appeared out of the water. Then what he saw, a few meters away, his boat wave walker was near capsizing. It was floating, but it was about to capsizing. A giant wave hardly hit the boat and it tried to topple down. Topple down in the means it was about to capsizing into the sea water. He just noticed her mast almost horizontal. See, I will show you it in the picture. See this mast. When the giant wave hardly hit the boat just started to capsizing. The boat just started to capsizing. Slowly, see the mast, the top, the mast became vertical, horizontal from the position. And see, then there was several flying boat, and unexpectedly he just noticed mast almost horizontal. It is in the vertical position. Now it is in the vertical position. When the giant wave hardly hit and it made to capsize it, made it to topple down into the sea water, it was about to sink, then the mast became horizontal. Then what happened? The poet was, the writer didn't know what to do, because he himself was singing, himself was about to sink in the sea water. Fortunately, he just came up. He was floating on the surface of the water. He just noticed the position of his boat. The boat was about to sink. The giant waves hardly hit and damaged the boat. At the same time, then a wave hurled upright. My lifeline jerked taut. Fortunately, the mast of the boat comes down to its horizontal from its vertical position. Then a wave threw it upright. Then again another wave came. The boat was about to sink. This is the boat, this is the position. When it starts to sink, again another wave came and it hardly hit and it brought the boat in its original position. Can you follow me, children? Yeah, this is the boat. Just imagine, this boat was about to sink, so it became, see, like this, the mast became horizontal. Again another wave hardly hit and it brought the boat into its original position. So a wave threw upright. It came to its original position. The writer's lifeline, the rope, was still tied to the ship. Fortunately, he tied up his lifeline with the boat. Unless otherwise, what happened? His connection with the boat will be curtailed. So then, see, the writer's lifeline rope was still tied to the ship. It pulled at him with such a jerk that he was thrown back onto his ship. So when see, at the hip, his lifeline was just tied up with the rope. When again another wave came, he started to fly. The wave just threw him away like this. He flew away in the open air and he again fell on the deck of the boat or ship. What a great lucky man he was. So still tied to the ship, it pulled at him the rope with such a jerk that he was thrown back onto his ship. Now the succeeding waves tossed him around the deck. How it threw him on the deck like a rag doll. You know that a rag doll, like a rag doll, the wave threw him on the deck of the boat. So again the writer reached the deck. His left ribs, but in this attempt, when he was thrown away by the giant waves forcefully, violently, his left ribs cracked, broken, his teeth were broken, and his mouth was filled with blood. Somehow he found the steering wheel and tried to control the ship for the next wave. Though he sustained all these injuries, now he came to his original position. Next he has to steer the ship correctly, because the continuous waves keeps coming. Then he has to keep his boat ready for to face the next wave. See the lines. I was aware of flying overboard and sinking below the waves. See, I grabbed the guardrails and sailed through the air into the wave walker main boom. Subsequent waves tossed me around the deck like a rag doll. My left ribs cracked. My mouth filled with blood and broken teeth, because the teeth have broken. Somehow he just caught back the wheel, steering wheel, because it is very important. He has to bring the boat under his control for the next wave and hang on. Okay, so these much problems and disasters they have to face, encounter the disastrous waves also, but they didn't lose their courageousness, boldness. Next, what happens? Okay, let me explain. There was water everywhere on the ship. When the rear part or at the bottom of the ship had been broken by the violent waves, the sea water just starts to enter the boat. It is very dangerous. We have to block the entry point immediately. Otherwise, the entire sea water penetrates or comes into the boat. Then due to the heavy weight, the boat may sink. Something he has to do. What he did? Let me explain. Water, water. See children, page number 14 from the below last paragraph. Water, water, everywhere. I could feel that the ship had water below, but I dared not abandon the wheel to investigate. Suddenly, the front catch was thrown open and Mary appeared. "We are sinking," she screamed. "The decks are smashed. We are full of water." There was water everywhere on the ship. He could feel that water had entered the lower part of the ship, but he could not dare to leave the steering wheel and go down to investigate, because he has to control the boat. If he goes down to identify or to notice the things happened, then someone should take care of the steering wheel. So he didn't know what to do. At the time, suddenly the door in the deck floor opened. The narrator's wife suddenly appeared. Mary appeared. She shouted, "Wow, man, what you are doing here?" See, the lower part of the ship, boat had been damaged and the sea water started to enter, and all the lower part of the deck were full of water. They were all sinking. The lower deck have smashed, and there is water, water everywhere, everywhere. Then something the narrator had to do. The writer asked Mary to take care of the wheel, and he himself went down to see what best could be done. Okay, so take the wheel, he instructed his wife. He shouted as I scrambled for the catch. So moved quickly. Scramble means moved quickly. Something he has to do to stop the water. Larry and Herb, the two sailors, they were pumping. When he went down, to his surprise, he saw Larry and Herb were trying to pump out the water, but they cannot do it. But they didn't do it because broken pieces because when the side wall of the boat was damaged by the giant waves, it was broken into small pieces, one part. So the pieces of timbers were hanging in strange angles. So just imagine, see, inside the boat, so they were hanging in different angles. So it also blocked their peaceful work. Broken pieces of timber were hanging in strange angles. First they have to be removed, unless they cannot block the entry point of the water. All around and starboard, right side of the ship. Starboard means right side of the ship. Starboard, right side of the ship. The right side of the ship had bulged inwards. Clothes, crockery, charts, tins and toys were floating about in the deep water. See, let me read the lines. Laurie and Herb, page number 15, from the top, second paragraph. It starts with Larry and Herb were pumping like madmen. They don't know what they are doing. Just like how the madman keeps doing something, in the same manner, they keep pumping out the incoming water. Broken timbers bring at crazy angles. They were hanging here and there. The whole starboard, that is the right side of the ship, was heavily damaged, bulged inwards. Actually, so what happened? Timbers were hanging strange angles, and the right side of the ship had bulged inwards. See, inside it just bulged. So what happened next? And clothes, crockery, charts, tins and toys sloshed. Sloshed means informal, drunk. See, I'll write all these things. What are all the things which were floating on the water? See, when these things are floating, can you guess how can they do such a nice works of pumping out the water? See, clothes and crockery. Clothes, crockery, charts, tins and toys. All these things started to float on the water. They were soaking in the water. Sloshed. Actually, it is an informal usage in English. It stands for drunk. It just drank the water. When they started to float on the water, they observed the water. Okay. So it has been described by the narrator with the word sloshed. Okay. About in deep water, I half swam, half crawled into the children's cabin. Now he noticed and he gave enough instruction to the crewmen to stop the inflow of water. Then next it is his duty to find out what happened to the children, because they were alone in the cabin. So when he went down, to his surprise, he saw, the writer half swam and half crawled into the children's cabin. He looked them if they were all right. Yes, they said. See, I half swam, half crawled into the children's cabin. Are you all right? When the narrator asked the children this question, positively they answered, okay, Dad, we are in the safe position. Nothing would happen to us. We are safe. They answered from an upper bunk. But my head hurts a bit, said Sue. Her daughter showed the injuries she sustained on her head when the boat was dashed by the giant waves, pointed to a big pump above her eyes, swelling. I had no time to worry about pumped heads. So, yes, Sue said that her head had been hurt a bit. her daughter expressed that with great annoyance. She wanted her daughter to take care of it. There was a big bump swelling above her eyes. See, as the writer had other urgent work to attend, he did not worry about the pumped heats. He just, okay children, take care of you, I will come back. So now I had some urgent work, I have to attend that work. With that very word, he just moved from the place to attend what best he can do just to save the boat from sinking. Okay. So, after finding a hammer, screws and a canvas, I struggled back on the deck. So, now he had to plug the hole from where the water was gushing in. So for that he has to do something. So he collected hammer, screws and a canvas. So he collected all the needed things. He reached the starboard, that is the right side of the boat, with a great struggle. There was an open on the base bottom. Through that, pump swelling on a surface. See, through that, what happened? See, he took hammers, screws and a canvas. I struggled back on deck. He just went back to the deck to find out. With the starboard side, base was open. Base means the lower part. It was opened by the giant waves. Through that hole, through that open only, the sea water is coming inside. We were taking water with each wave that broke over us. If I couldn't make some repairs, we would surely sink. Then the writer noticed, and then he suggested, whenever the boat is hit by the waves, it just send the water inside the boat. So they received water. Whenever, at each and every wave, they received the water because there was a hole. So through that hole, each and every wave, at each and every wave, they received the water. So something should do to block the hole. Through that hole, the water gushed in at each and every wave. If it was not plugged, then surely they would sink. That was the position. Somehow, he managed to stretch canvas and fixed waterproof catch cover across the gaping holes. Wow. See, somehow, what the writer did, somehow I managed to stretch canvas. With the help of the canvas, he just tried to block the hole. Okay, canvas can help us even during the rainy season through some small holes when water just gushed in our house. What we do, we use some canvas to stop the water if it is available. So somehow I managed to stretch canvas. He just stretched and kept the canvas and fixed the canvas on the hole and secure tightly he fastened waterproof catch covers. Waterproof catch covers. See, let me write it on the board. How he blocked, how he stopped the inflow of water. From sea, they managed to stretch canvas. Stretch canvas to block the hole. They used canvas and secure, fastened tightly waterproof catch covers. Waterproof catch covers. Waterproof catch covers. Using all these things, they just tried to block the gap. Some water continued to stream below, but most of was now being deflected over the side. The great achievement, to some extent. So what they did, then the writer kept another and the cabin it blocked to the hand. Let me see these things. He had to block the hole from the water, so somehow he managed, okay, to stretch the canvas and fixed waterproof catch covers across the gaping holes. Some water yet stream below. He can't just stop all the inflow of water, but most of the water was now deflected. Deflected means prevent something from flowing. So the water was deflected means they prevent something from flowing, being deflected over the side. Next, more problems arose when our hand pumps started to block up with the debris floating around the cabins. The electric pump short circuited. See, debris, see the unwanted, the waste things were floating around the cabins because the water came inside, so all the things started to float. It blocked the hand pumps. They had hand pumps also. With the help of the hand pumps, they can they can send out, or they can deflect some water. They can pump out some water. But unfortunately, the hand pumps had been blocked by the debris. The debris were floating around the cabins, and the electric pump, what happens? Hand pumps. Okay, then they just looked out for electric pump. The electric pump was also working. It had short circuited because when the electric pump was just surrounded by the water, it gets short circuited. It is quite common. Electrical appliances, when they get wet, they short circuited. So he cannot use the electric pump also. He cannot, because of its short circuited, and he cannot use hand pumps also because the debris had floated. Debris, what happens? They just blocked, so it cannot work properly. The water level rose threateningly, floating around the cabins, and the electric pumps were short circuited. The water level rose threateningly. See, it was very important. They must do something. You just imagine if you were in the boat, how much you are afraid of seeing such things. Yeah, the water level rose threateningly. Back on deck, I found that our two spare hand pumps had been wrenched overboard, along with the forestay sail, the zip, the dinghy, and the main anchor. The water level rose threateningly. He found that their two spare hand pumps had been pulled away to the back of the boat. They were pulled away by the currents of the water. The water, inflow of water pulled away all, not only the hand pumps but other things also. They just washed away. But fortunately they were found inside or at the back of the boat. Along with the forestay sail, it helped them to stop the boat, and the zip, small triangular zip which is triangular sail, and then the dinghy. Here dinghy is supposed to be a small boat for racing, small boat for racing, an open boat with a mast. Okay, and the main anchor. Pulled away means they draw oneself back or away or withdraw. All these things were washed away by the water. What are all the things which were passed away? Forestay sail. See, I will write one by one. You have to know the meaning of all these things, children. Then only you can understand this lesson properly. Electric pump was short circuited. The water level rose threateningly. Back on deck, I found out our two spare hand pumps wrenched outboard along with forestay sail. Along with forestay sail. What does it mean? Forestay sail means the triangle water, the triangle alter aftermost head sail of the head sail. It is a head sail. Just to stop immediately the running boat. Okay, and it was washed away, and then it also washed away. See, forest sail, the zip. You know that it is also small sail attached with crane or mast. Okay, that also you should know, attached with the crane. And then the dinghies. Here dinghies refers to a small boat for racing. Dinghies. So dinghies, usually whenever people are going for boat riding, they have to keep all these things in the boat, unless otherwise they cannot face the critical situation. Because we cannot just judge, we cannot just decide, we cannot just foresee. In the sea, anything may happen. Sometimes you may be faced, you may be encountered by the giant waves, sometimes you may be encountered by the cyclone, storms, and the attack of the shark, blue whales. So many things are happening. You might have watched all these things in the channels, Discovery channels and the National Geography. Okay, fine. It is not so easy to make such a great voyage on the ship in the sea. Okay, fine. So all these things, I will write the meaning. Dinghish means a small boat for, small. Dinghish means a small boat for racing. All these things were just washed away by the sea water. So pulled away by the current of the water. Then I remembered we had another electric pump under the chart room floor. I connected it to an out pipe and was thankful to find that it was worked. So immediately he remembered. Then the writer remembered and recalled, wow, we had kept one electric pump under the chart room. Maybe it is in proper working condition. If we go and get that pump, with the help of that pump, we can to some extent pump out the water. He thought that, so he rushed to the LIC, he rushed to the chart room. He connected the electric pump to an out pipe. It started working, and fortunately it started to work. They have to thank heavens, they have to thank God for such things. And the night tracked on with an endless, bitterly cold routine of pumping, steering and working the radio. Night moved very slowly. Night moved. See, the night tracked on. The night moved very slowly. Night seems to them endless. The night seems to them an endless night. They had to keep pumping and steering all night because they have to anchor the boat some safe place. So they sent a radio signal also for help. From the boat they sent a radio signal for help, but they couldn't get any help. They couldn't get any reply. Sometimes it may happen when you are doing voyage in the ship or boat in the sea, when you are trying to get help from somebody else through wireless or through electronic way mode, sometimes it won't reach the person. The signal may not reach the person. So they didn't get any reply. It was not something surprising because they were in a remote corner of the world. Actually, where they were sailing, they were in the remote corner of the world. From there, how can they connect? How can they contact the people? How can they get the help from the others? Because they are in the corner of the world. In the see, okay. Next, Sue's head had swollen alarmingly. She had two enormous black eyes. Now she showed us a deep cut on her arm also. When I asked why she hadn't made more of her injuries before this, she replied, I didn't want to worry you when you were trying to save us all. What a nice word. Can you expect such words from the small children? Let me explain. Shu, that's a child, just about 7 years old. She had severe head injuries and her head had swollen. It was very thick. Alarmingly, her eyes looked terribly black. due to that injuries, she sustained injuries on her forehead as well as the eyes. Therefore, her eyes looked terribly black, and she had a deep cut on her arms also. That much she sustained, all these injuries she sustained on her bodies. When the narrator asked why she had not told of her injury, why you had not told of all these injuries well in advance, she said, what a nice answer the child had given. She said, I didn't want to worry you when you were trying to save us all. Both of you and my mother and all others were trying hard to save us, to save our life. So it is not a great thing before all such things. That's the thing that I didn't disturb you. What a nice answer. How mature the child. So, next part, what happens? Shall we continue, children? Do you like to hear? Do you like to listen to the class, to the lecture? Yeah, third part of this lesson. By morning on January 3rd, the pumps had the water level sufficiently under control for us to take 2 hours rest in rotation. So they brought the water level under their control. When it happened? By morning of January 3rd. So January 1st they celebrated their Happy New Year. Second, they faced all these hurdles. Throughout the night they suffered. Throughout the night they struggled to face all these things. By morning of January 3rd, the water level was quite under control. To some extent, they relieved. It was 15 hours since the wave had hit the ship and they had survived. That's important. 15 hours. See, to take 2 hours rest in, but we still had a tremendous leak somewhere below the water line, and on checking I found that nearly all her boat's main raft frames were smashed down to the keel. In fact, there was nothing holding up a whole section of the starboard pull, and except, see what happens here. By morning January 3rd, the water level was brought under their control, but still they had some leakages where they had below the water line. Immediately they went and checked it. The narrator found that nearly all the boat's main rib frames, the frames which were joined together, they give a support to the walls of the boat. When the boat is tossed here and there by giant waves, the ribs that join together only give support. But most of the main ribs were found smashed down to the keel, the uppermost part. In fact, there was nothing holding up a whole section of the starboard hull except a few cupboard partitions. But see, the right side of the boat was heavily damaged. A few angles, a few ribs which were attached to the right side of the boat were actually they were supporting to the boat. Unless otherwise, the entire right part of the boat will fall into the sea water. But see, here and there, the things here and there, the ribs and the other angles which they had tied up with the bottom gave support to the right of the ankle. Frames were smashed down to the knee. In fact, there was nothing holding up, but actually strong beam or strong rib was not there to hold on the entire starboard section. So here and there, a cupboard partition gave support to the right side of the boat from its falling down. Okay, so by the morning on, next what happens? The whole section of the right side of the boat was heavily damaged. No wooden frame structure was there to hold on that except cupboard partition. Okay, and the next, they had almost survived. They had almost survived for 15 hours after the wave walker hardly hit. See, is the greatest thing. After the boat was hardly hit by the wave, by the giant waves, They had survived for 15 hours after the wave walker hardly hit by the giant waves. Now it has been damaged heavily. It has lost its endurance, durability and stability, the boat. The narrator hoped that now the boat was not strong enough to reach Australia. He just realized. But it doesn't mean that because the lower parts of the ship were all wooden frames, they had damaged, smashed. They had not seen possible that wave walker would be able to reach Australia. And their survival for 15 hours is the greatest thing. See where this line come across us. So I checked out chart. See now, we had survived for 15 hours since the wave hit. But the wave walker wouldn't hold together long enough for us to reach Australia. Why? Why the poet, the narrator considered like that? Because the boat has got severe damage and damaged heavily. Giant waves had been damaged it. It has lost the endurance, durability and stability because all the ribs has been damaged, smashed, and angles were also damaged. So without all these things, the boat cannot face the giant waves of the ocean or sea. The narrator hoped that now the boat was strong enough to reach Australia. That was the conclusion he had. So what happened? I checked out charts. The writer checked our charts and calculated that there were two small islands a few hundred kilometers to the east. Now they had to take a decision. They cannot go for a long distance because the boat had damaged heavily by the disastrous waves. So at least they have to anchor the boat in the nearby, safely in the nearby seashore or in the nearby island. They have to locate it. And the charts had also been damaged. The route map had also been damaged by the water. So now the poet, the narrator, find it very difficult to take the decision. How can they reach the nearby and see the nearby islands or seashore? Two options he had in his hands. Just he told him how he located that for 15 hours since the wave hit. See, I checked out our charts and calculated that there were two small islands. He found out two small islands. A few hundred kilometers. If they travel towards the east, they could reach the island. One of them is Ile Amsterdam. It was a French scientific base. Our only hope was to reach these pinpricks in the vast ocean. But unless the wind and seas abated, so we could hoist sail, our chances would be slim indeed. The great wave had put our auxiliary engine out of action also. So the writer checked his charts. He calculated that there were two small islands. These islands were a few hundred kilometers away. If the weather turns smooth, they can easily reach the two small islands a few hundred kilometers towards the east. One of them was Amsterdam. Now their only hope was to reach these parts in the vast ocean, unless otherwise it is very difficult to save them. But that could not be possible. Only the wind stopped and they could put up the sail. Unless they hoist all their sails, their chances of reaching the island would be slim indeed. They have to raise all their sails because to control the speed and to control the shaking of the boat from the giant waves and the wind of the ocean, the great wave had put our auxiliary engine also out of action. Normally, when the people used to go for such a long sea voyages, besides the main engine, they have an auxiliary engine also to support the main engine. But they put our auxiliary engine, but see, it was also out of action. They cannot do anything. So only thing they had to reach the nearby island. One was Amsterdam, Amsterdam, that was a French scientific base. So they can reach that island, then they can be safe there. From there they can repair their boat and they can get the help from the people of the island, from the dwellers of the island. But for to reach that, two conditions are necessary. There should not be any, the sea has to be so quiet and calm. The wind and seas abated, they should be abated, so we could see. For that, they could hoist sail. Our chances would be very slim indeed. The great wave had put auxiliary engine also out of action. Then what happens? On January 4th, after 36 hours of continuous, on January 4th, after 36 hours of continuous pumping, we reached the last few centimeters of water. So they pumped out almost all the waters. A few centimeters of water was there. On January 4, after 36 hours of continuous pumping, they reached the last few centimeters of water. They could not put any sail on the main mast. The pressure could tear apart the damaged ship. Continuous pressure on the damaged hull pulled the damaged part apart. They hoisted only storm zip, small triangular sail used in the front, and they headed for the place where two islands were located. Mary found some beef and biscuits for them. They had their first meal in almost 2 days. So, let's see, on January 4th, after 36 hours of continuous pumping, they brought the water level under their control. Now we had only to keep pace with the water still coming in. Only a small amount of water they have to pump out. We could not set any sail on the mast because pressure on the rigging would simply pull the damaged section of the hull apart. So they cannot do. We hoisted only the storms, that alone they can use. Heavy pressure due to the wind. The rigging was also damaged. It would simply pull the damaged section of the hull, the lower part apart. So they cannot just use the sails to stop the boat from tossing. So only thing they hoisted the storm zip. So it just helped them to control the boat from its tossing and headed for where I thought the two islands were. So they were out, see, they had their hope. They didn't lose their hope, and we are making travel towards, see, the islands. Mary found first some corned beef and cracker biscuits also, and it was their first meal in almost 2 days. It was their first meal almost in 2 days. One more paragraph I would like to read, children. But see, the sense, see, for a continuous pumping, they reached storm zip, triangular zip, and they head for the place where two islands, and they headed for the place where two islands were located. At the time they just had their first meal after 2 days. The sense of relief. When I went in to comfort the children, John asked, "Daddy, are we going to die?" I tried to assure him that we could make it. "But Daddy," he went on, "we are not afraid of dying if we can all be together. You and Mummy, Shu and I." What a word, meaningful word. The child has uttered. How bold the child was. The child was ready to face all the troubles and problems when their parents are trying to save them. And they were ready to go with their parents. Even if anything happened, whatever may be, they were ready to die, even with their parents. What a courageous children they were. What a tremendous ideas they had in their mind. See the words. So the writer went to comfort the children. The narrator just asked, and then the boy replied, John, Daddy, are we going to die? The question was raised by the narrator's son. Actually, the narrator had gone there to comfort the children. But the question, he didn't face that question. He didn't expect that question. Daddy, are we going to die? I tried to assure him that we could make it. Don't worry, children. We will never die. We will reach this part. I will make all the arrangements. I will never go back in my attempt. People with courageousness will never go back in their attempt. So the nature will help us to reach. Nature will help us to achieve our target. You don't worry. Definitely we will reach this part. We could make it. But the boy continued. He went on saying, we are not afraid of dying, Daddy. Don't think that I am asking you this question out of my fear of dying. No. I never fear of dying. If we can all be together, that is the title of this lesson. If we can all be together, that's the title. Because you and mommy, you and I. The nice answer. It moved the heart of the narrator. What happened next? Did they reach the place safely? We will see the remaining things in the third part, the next video class. Till that, do one thing, children. When you receive this video, just play it and then take the textbook with you and read the textbook line by line, word by word, and follow the meaning and instructions and the narration what I have been giving throughout this session. It will help you to understand this lesson properly. Thank you, children. Be safe at home. Have a nice day.